Hey everybody, it's Peter, and welcome to my YouTube channel called Oh For Pete's Sake, where I talk about when I've been cross-stitching for the last, it's been about 6 weeks. I tried to do this every month, but got a little bit behind, so 6 weeks. So I've got a lot of cross-stitch to show you, but at the same time, it's probably about normal. I'm part of a kickball league, and so that takes up an entire afternoon to participate on that team and then social hour afterwards. So that really cuts into my weekend stitching, but I still have 3 FFOs to show you. I'm going to talk about my stitch along with Stitchy Linda and show you a few other works in progresses. So the first fully finished object that I want to show you, or FFO, is a cigar box. So you can see that, and I showed this as a work in progress on the last video. So the top slides off like that, and it's just a simple wood box. But on the front, I stitched a little red sampler. And this is 56 count Weeks Dye Works parchment using Gloriana silks called Dutch Red. And I formatted my own pattern using a variety of red samplers from the Ooh La La book by Blackbird Designs. So the alphabet was chosen, is this alphabet right here, and then the bird from the box came from this pattern as well, and then I think that's it from this sampler. The borders came from yep, here it is. This is the antique. So you can see that I took that plant motif is from this one. This border motif, the border motif that's around the edges, is also used. So just a variety of patterns used to make this this little red sampler. Now the way that I did it was I measured around the edges of the box to know what size of a pattern I needed, and then I divided by the various linen sizes. So 20 would be 40 count, or 23 or 56 would be 28, and so I divided or multiplied the inches. I made that same mistake in my last video. It's multiply times inches, so that way I know how many stitches I have. So 56 count allowed me a lot of stitches to fit on there. So yeah, so I'm very happy with the way that looks. The one thing that I am trying to find is an antique sewing tomato. I think if I were to put that on a shelf, the box on a shelf, and then put an antique sewing tomato that's sort of the same burgundy color, I think would make a really cool display. I also thought about making my own tomato, so that way I would have a burgundy tomato with a wool leaves on the top of the tomato, and then use a blanket stitch with gold thread, so that way it would mix in really well with the box, and then the tomato would just sit on top. There's no rush to have anything, but it is nice to have the finish. So that was my first finish for this video. My second fully finished object I do not have with me. I was very lucky to attend a small retreat in Jacksonville called Circle of Friends. And they asked for door prizes. And so I stitched it and fully finished the object, and it had a really beautiful weekend. So thank you, Edith and Jean, for hosting. But so I'll just have to show you some pictures of the fully finished object. Uh, that that piece is stitched on 37 count, or sorry, Legacy linen foxtail 37 count, and that the piece is a mix. Again, it's a mix of Blackbird designs. When I do pieces for retreats or as gifts, I tend to mix it up a little bit, so that way no one's going to have this already stitched, so it's something new for them. So looking at that piece again, the border that is on the left and the bottom comes from the book When the Leaves Fall. And the specific pattern is called Autumn Abundance. And so this is a pumpkin that's got it's got 4 panels, and each panel has a different border on the top. And so you can just about see the border that I used here along the top of that one panel. The large house and tree that is over top is also from the When the Leaves Fall, but it is from the sampler that is in this book, and it is called A Token of Love. And so you can see the house and this vine. Now, the one interesting thing about this pattern is that because this is a fall book, all of these are acorns, and the recommended floss colors are fall color, autumnal, and so a lot of oranges and orangey pinks. So I did have to change those from brown acorns to pink flowers. So that's the house and the tree over top of the house, and then the motif that is on the left side is from Thy Love More Strong, and it's this floral motif that is over here on the right side. Now the motif on this sampler has a bird on top, except for the theme for this retreat was flowers. And so I wanted a bird that was holding a flower. So from the Homes for the Holidays book, I there's a bird holding a flower right here in this pattern, and it's called the meadow. And so that bird is holding a flower with some leaves. The colors that I chose are just your standard Blackbird design colors. There's Oscar and olive and dolphin and palomino and cinnabar. I think I also sorry, I was looking over at my floss wall trying to remember. Old red paint is also on there, so it is just using a lot of the Blackbird colors that if you've stitched one, you've got them somewhere in your stash. So that was also I just painted that with a blue paint. That is a box from Michaels that I painted blue, and then sanded the edges and the areas that are typically, because when you've got an antique box, certain parts of it get worn, so you sand those pieces that typically get worn the most. And then on the inside, I just had some fabric and just chose something with flowers. Again, the theme was florals, so covered a piece of mat board with the fabric to do the edges, and then the underside of the lid I used 3 layers of batting and then the fabric, so that way it had a little bit of volume and stuffing to the bottom, or the bottom of the box, as well as the lid. So that was the inside of the box. Just remembered while I was talking about the inside of the box, I messed up. I messed up the top, and I allowed myself a 1/4 inch between the last stitch and where you would tuck it, the last stitch and where you would tuck it underneath the mat board. And I don't know what I was doing. I, I just don't know what I was doing. And instead of giving myself 3/4 of an inch around all 4 sides, I gave myself only a 1/4 of an inch on the left side. So I wasn't able to put any sort of batting on the top, so it's got a flat top finish. And because I had very little linen to tuck under the mat board, that one side didn't look really good. So what I ended up doing was having to do some cording. I just used some DMC to make some cording around the edge. When I make my cording, I just it's so ridiculous. When I make my cording, I go out to the garage, I get my drill, and I just use my drill. I know some people have the somebody makes one. Somebody makes a hand driven one in order to make Kreinik. Yeah, Kreinik makes one that is hand driven. I just use my drill from the garage and use that for tightening my cording. It results in a beautiful piece, so I'll continue using the drill. All right, so those are the 2 boxes that I made. The other fully finished object that I have is a little boutonniere. So we were going to go to a fundraiser event, and I really wanted to include my cross stitch, and so I decided to make a little boutonniere. The pattern that I used was Robin Pickens' Gathering Bright Blooms, and I didn't take the time to pull the book, but here's my finish of the object, and this is a drum that I need to fully finish. And so what I did was I chose this floral motif, this orange one on the end. I chose these floral motifs and the leaves from that as well. And so my finished product is a pin that looks like this. And so this just goes into my lapel. Try to get the light on it so that way it's better. What I used was a plastic canvas 14 count. I did consider perforated paper just because I haven't used plastic canvas in a very long time. And so it's like, I don't know if I want to go back to plastic canvas. So, but they didn't have any they didn't have any perforated paper at the shop, and so it's like, well, I'm gonna have to use plastic canvas, and it actually probably worked out a lot better that I did use the plastic, because there were a lot of friends there, so there was a lot of hugging. I don't know how, I just don't know how paper, even though that perforated paper is a little thick, I don't know how it would hold up in that sort of situation. So 14 count plastic mesh that I spray painted with a Actually, give me 1 second. There we are. All right, there we are. That makes it a lot easier to see, and I don't get as much shadows. So I use the plastic, 2 threads of DMC, and I chose the flower color based on my tie, so that way my flower and my tie would match. Um, when I cut the flower out of the larger sheet of mesh, the paint sort of scraped off with the scissors. And so I did have to take a little toothpick and just touch up the paint that is on the edges. All of the flower is one piece, and the leaves are a second piece, and then all of them are glued onto a boutonniere pin. And so this is just it's got a little cap that pops off, and it's a needle. And so I spray painted the end just so that way it would hide underneath the flower a little bit better. And then I glued the leaves and then a few pieces of extra plastic and then the flower, just so that way it's really hard to see on screen in pictures, but in person the flower is just a little bit higher than the leaves. So that's my little plastic boutonniere that not plastic, but my little cross stitch boutonniere that I made for our fundraiser. So it's one of those things that it took a day to stitch and fully finished. And now that I've done all the math and have the technique, I could probably get them done a little bit quicker. So if we go to a retreat, maybe expect these as table gifts. We'll see. I don't know. I could only buy I could only buy 10 sheets of mesh. So I've got to use it up somehow. So maybe just table gifts. So anyways, that's the boutonnieres. Next, I'm going to talk about a stitch along that I am doing with Stitchy Linda. All right, so Stitchy Linda and I share a birthday month. And so we have done, and once again, I forgot to bring my previous, I forgot to bring my previous birthday sals. But this year, we decided to do strawberries. And so the name of our stitch along is called hashtag strawberries and cake sal. And so at the beginning of the month, anybody could select any strawberry and then stitch that. And then on April 25th, which is this Saturday, we're going to have cake at the Common Thread in Ocala, Florida. They open up at 10 a.m. and so we'll be there for when they open and through the day stitching. So bring something to stitch on, and we'll also have some cake. Yeah, the strawberries that I chose to stitch were from the Deck the Halls Blackbird Designs book. And this is a series of 6 strawberry patterns. And the strawberry that I am currently working on is called, let me check. I think it's called From Me to Thee. Yeah. So this strawberry is called From Me to Thee, and it's the one that I'm currently working on. This is Fox and Rabbit Up in the Attic 36 count. Using the recommended floss colors, and if I didn't have the recommended in stash, I just chose close prox, something similar. So that's the first strawberry that I'm still working on. The second strawberry that I'm stitching on is called the Dancing Sugar Plums. And this is stitched on Fiber on a Whim wheat 36 count. All of them are stitched on 36 count, just so that way all of the strawberries are the same size. Plus I can be lazy and only make one template. So this is Dancing Sugar Plum Fairies, and so I finished this finished this at the beginning of the month. And then the second one that I stitched is called It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. And I'm stitching this one on Will Die for You Fossil 36 count. And this is the piece that I spent the Circle of Friends retreat in Jacksonville was 3 days. And that's how long it took me to fill in that house and bird, just because I was talking a lot. So, which is why I go to a retreat, is to talk and meet friends. Being able to finish a piece is just a bonus. So that's that one. Before we started the stitch along, I had already finished 2 others from the book. And so this is the On the First Day of Christmas. So it's a little partridge in a red pear tree. And the other one that I had finished before this month was Christmas Cactus. And Christmas Cactus is on... I don't have Christmas Cactus in my notes, so... But yeah, it's another Fiber on a Whim. Yeah, so that's... I've got 5 of them done. The other one that I still need to do is called Christmas Visitor, and it's a large pelican. Here it is. So that's what it looks like. I don't know what I'm doing. This is what it looks like as a strawberry. This is what it looks like as a framed piece. So. At the retreat, there was a conversation about why there's a pelican, and the pelican is used as a symbol in many samplers, as well as in medieval cathedrals and artwork as a symbol of Christ. So that's why the pelican. I just finished that large white house on Midnight Clear, and I didn't want to do more white stitching, so that's why I had chosen to do From Me to Thee rather than the Christmas Visitor. But hopefully after I record, we'll discuss it in plans, stitching the pelican. So that's our stitch along. Strawberries and Cake Sal, and I hope to see all of you April 25th at the Common Thread Stitch Shop in Ocala. My next work in progress to show you is another stitch along, but this one is the Modern Folk Embroideries stitch along for 2026, and it's called Little Acorns. And so I didn't do a whole lot on this piece just because I got distracted with doing the berries. But this is how far I got. So what I did was more of this flower motif, and then I filled in these bees, and then I was able to stitch and finish all of these words. So that puts me... I'm a little bit behind. I mean, we're almost finished because each one of these pieces is a part of each month up to now. And so this is month 4, and this is all I've done for piece 4. I'm really happy with where I'm at with this right now because if you remember what I've done with this piece is I have chosen four different colors of DMC. And so these first two parts are DMC 3051, and these words start the part for 936. And so you can't see it here in the video, but when you're looking at it in person, you can see that we are starting to get just a little bit darker. I wanted it just to be a very subtle ombre effect, and so I'm very happy with where we're at with this piece. So excited to try to catch up on the stitch along with everybody else. There's so many people that are also participating in this stitch along, and everybody's doing something different. This piece is DMC floss, and I am using the Hometown Fibers Queenie Verdal 40 count, and I am absolutely loving this Verdal. It's so cool to see. I always love looking at my stitches, but because this is an even weave, all of the X's are the exact same size and they lay perfectly. There's no slubs, or there's no really slender piece that throws off the size of one stitch. So it's really fun to stitch on this Verdal. Plus, I didn't realize this when I chose this color Queenie, but with all of this green thread, this gray is starting to get a little bit of a green tinge to it. So I'm so happy that the people at the shop convinced me to use this gray. So, Little Acorns. All right, now my last work in progress. When I recorded in March, it was the Tuesday before Nashville Needlework Market. And so since then, there's been a lot of, people showing what they purchased. And I already have a lot of a lot of patterns in my collection that I want to stitch. And so I told myself that I would not buy anything this month and that I would wait until all of the hype calmed down and I would give more thought to what I wanted to do. That was foolish. We all knew that was going to happen. So I went to the shop, and during market week, in order to look for perforated paper, and there were lots of people in there. They were all looking at this year's Nashville Needlework Market, and so I'm like, okay, fine, I will allow myself to buy one pattern. And so the one pattern that I bought myself from market was Fruit Dove Frenzy by Boomerang Stitches. I really love this pattern, not because of the birds, but because of the fruit. I'm a horticulture major, and so all of those various tropical fruits just really appeal to me. And second most important thing is that those birds are just really cool looking. When I brought it home, I was teased that, even at the shop, I was teased that this is a very different pattern for me because there are no houses and no alphabets. So not my usual pattern. So, but it's so cool. I mean, those fruits. I mean, like, look at these dragon fruits and the papayas and the figs and the mangoes. I mean, it's really cool. So, anyways, Fruit Dove Frenzy became my start for this past month, and so this is how far I have stitched on this piece. So you can see that I've done the fruit in the corner and this first bird. I am stitching this on 40 count Atomic Ranch Vapors, which is a light grayish blue. I mean, down here in the corner, you can see that it gets a little darker, but um, it sort of got a sky sort of feel to it. The recommended color is just antique white, and so I wanted a little bit of movement in the background, so that's why I chose an overdyed linen. The This is a small piece. On 40 count, it is going to be, let's see, 40 count, it's going to be 9 by 10. So it's not huge, but it requires 32 different DMC colors in order to get all of that awesomeness for the fruit and birds. So yeah, so even all these colors are very unusual for me, and that's fine. I'm enjoying it so much. The reason, so I've got it on 2 rings, and the reason I have it on 2 rings is because this is sort of, this ring has everything on it, and then the second ring is just the colors for the thing that I'm working on. So like when I do the bird and the fruit, I'll put that on the second ring, and then everything else that I'm using, I'll just put on the first ring, just so that way my floss don't get fuzzy from overuse. So that's the only haul that I have from this past month as well, is just the fruit dove frenzy, the DMC, and the linen for the patterns. So not a lot of haul for this year, or for this month either. So for plans, my plans for the rest of April and going into May is that I am working on a present, and so that is top priority, is trying to finish that present in time. After the present, maybe work on the berry. I want to finish all of the berries all at one time, just because all of my stitching stuff is in one room, and so if I'm going to create a mess with cutting boards and templates and stuffing and the sewing machine and everything else, I would prefer to do all 6 berries at one time. So I would like to be able to have all of those berries fully finished in time for my next video. So the present, the berry, and fully finishing the berries are my priority plans. After that, little acorns, fruit doves could be in there. I came to the realization, somebody was showing all of their Teresa Kogut patterns on Flosstube recently, and I realized that I haven't touched Remember Me yet this year, so that might pop up. Who knows? It all depends on what I feel like doing after I finish my present and finishing that pelican. So thanks for joining me. As always, thanks for all the comments that y'all leave for me. I love the engagement with the community, and happy stitching.